And we're live. I like the fact that it always says you're live. I panic sometimes before I start that I've hit the button too early. And I was like, we'll have like a bit of chat. And it's not even interesting conversation. It's just kind of a back and forth. Sometimes you're just like, oh, let me just set this up. And it's like, oh, was that recording?
Although, whoops. Everybody can hear our conversation.
Yeah, I did talk about turning this into a podcast, and I was like, the funny thing is a lot of the like preamble that you do like off screen is really funny and just like silly, but then because it's not recorded, because we're not streaming, it's not in the content, and I was
you
like,
lose
I can't
the
make
banter.
people, lose the banter. It sucks, but there's always banter in the show, so hopefully that'll be good. But how are you doing? First note, another dog. I think I should just do a montage of all the dogs that I've seen.
So that's Franklin behind me. He may not look like it, but he's very excited to be here as well.
We are excited to have him as one of our guests on the show today. No, I know, might just pop up. Really funny. Funny behind you if you can't see him as well. But yeah, how's your day going so far?
It's good. It's 7:30 here on the in Seattle, so not a lot of day behind me yet, but so far so good.
Good. Hopefully it starts well with the show. But right, let's kick into it. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Stephanie Gooch, and I am a commercial architect at AWS. And today we are talking about the new sustainability tool. And I'm excited to have Liam with me today to chat about this. So we'll do your 1 minute origin story in a sec. Before we start, just a shout out. We always want to hear from you guys. Please feel free to put comments, questions in the chat, whether that's on YouTube or if you're watching us live. Question I had the other day was for someone who's watching on YouTube, didn't realize that under every single episode, all of the links that I share in the recording are in the notes. So just underneath there will always be all the links. So we're going to share a lot of links today. But if you do have any questions, feel free to email me at costoptimization@amazon.com. So, Liam, let's do your 1 minute origin story. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, it feels a little bit like the opening question of an interview. But yeah, hi. I'm Liam Greenemeyer. I'm a senior technical product manager in AWS Billing. I have been with Amazon for about 4 years. Yeah, I actually started out in a very different part of the business. I started out as an in-stock manager in the furniture retail group. And so I was doing supply chain planning and logistics and dealing with all kinds of global supply chain issues. And then I moved to, on the same team, moved to a vendor management role. And so led a team of vendor managers for things like negotiations and deal planning and managing a P&L. And I came to AWS, and the way that I always like to put it is I went from negotiating with candles vendors to to building cloud infrastructure.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
Yeah, so one of the great things about Amazon, but so now I am responsible for the AWS Billing Console and really am focused on improving the overall billing experience for our customers. AWS can be complicated, and we want to make it as simple as possible to understand and pay your bill and make sure that you aren't surprised.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's as Daily Push put it in, just wow, what a jump. That's quite a good little origin story from jumping all over the place. That's really interesting. And so I guess, guys, if you have any questions for Liam that's around the billing console, I'm throwing him on the spot there to answer those. But let us know if you have any questions. And like I said, if you have any follow-ups and want to get in touch later, then let us know. But that'll be interesting to learn more about. But today specifically, we are focusing on the carbon footprint reporting tool. Is that the full name of it? I said that right?
Full name is the Customer Carbon Footprint Tool.
Nice. And so you might have seen this already. This is something that's popped up on your billing console. You didn't need to enable it. It's there now. So not right now. Finish the episode with us, guys, and then go off and check action. Go look in your console and see if you've got any data in there. But do you want to give a bit of background about where this kind of thing came from, Liam?
Yeah, absolutely. So like all of the best products and features across Amazon, this came from listening to our customers, and specifically the way that this originated is one of our big customers came to us and said, hey, you've got all this information about the products and services and the resources that we're using and how much we're using them. Can you use that to help us calculate our carbon footprint? And at the time, we basically said, we don't know how to do that, but we'll try. And so we sort of started doing it for that one customer, and then realized there was a lot of demand for this. And so we worked with a lot of customers for a period of time to really understand what information and data they needed to better manage their carbon footprint, understand it, and ultimately reduce it. And so we worked with customers like Salesforce and Pinterest and Turbonomics to really understand what they needed out of the tool. And then from there, we sort of developed it and refined it and ultimately launched it in March of this year. So just 30 days ago or so.
Brand new.
An exciting first step, I think, on the road to a full suite of tools and products and features to help customers manage their sustainability and their carbon emissions.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm excited to dive into it. We're going to do a demo in a bit. And it's cool. I haven't actually had a chance to look into it a lot because my very, very small internal accounts that I used to mess around with do not have much in them. So they are not producing that much data. So it would be really good to kind of see. And in general, we did do an episode, I can't remember, a few months ago that was about sustainability and optimization around that. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about how to be more sustainable, please check that out, where today we're going to be focusing mainly on the tool. So do you want to give an explanation of what the tool actually does?
Yeah, absolutely. So it provides the customer carbon footprint tool provides a series of simple to use charts and graphs and visualizations that allow you to understand your current carbon footprint, understand how that carbon footprint has changed over time. So we provide data starting from January 2020. It allows you to break it down by geography and service, and then it shows you what emissions you have saved by using AWS as opposed to an on-premise equivalent workload. And then we also show you how, as AWS progresses towards powering our operations with 100% renewable energy, how those emissions will reduce over time.
Cool. Nice. And this is what we want to talk about. How do you calculate the backend? I know you can't lift the entire hood up and show us everything, but what's the kind of background information about how this stuff's calculated?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just like with billing, where we have to look at all of the really specific products, features, resources that you're using, the number of instance hours of different instance types, the amount of storage that you're using. We use all of that customer specific, really detailed information, as well as which regions they're operating in, to essentially calculate the carbon emissions associated with that resource usage. And the way that we do that is there's a whole methodology behind it that I won't go too deep into the weeds of. But basically, we look at the power utilization of our data centers as a whole. We do a lot of work to sort of strip out anything that is either unused capacity or that is being used internally, so that it's really focused on just the actual resource usage of our customers. And then sort of figuring out how both our base level services and then higher level managed services that sit on those base level services, how all of those create carbon emissions and draw power from the data center. And with all of that, we're able to calculate each customer's specific carbon footprint.
Cool. And nice.
And one thing I'll add to that is, we're telling you in this tool not just your carbon footprint, but also the emissions that you've saved as a result of using AWS. And the way that we did that is based on a research study by 451 Research, which is part of S&P Global Market Intelligence. And that study found that using AWS as opposed to an on-premises data center, they surveyed a bunch of on-premises data centers, and found that using AWS can be up to 80% more efficient depending on where you're operating and the types of workloads that you're operating in. And that's both from the efficiencies that AWS has, so things like our server utilization being much higher because we can amortize it across so many customers, all of the operational improvement efforts that we've done over the years, as well as all of the purchases of renewable energy that Amazon and AWS have done, and the renewable energy projects that we've launched ourselves. So things like putting solar panels on data centers and things like that.
Right. So it's this big, I like that because it's like the bigger picture element to it. It's not just like, oh, you're kind of your EC2 instances spending this much, but that other set of data also not just takes into account, oh, it's kind of like, oh, I moved away from a data center, but it's like the solar. It's all these elements that allow you to do that. It's really cool. And then that kind of leads me on thinking about this, so coming off of that point, like you can show the fact that by using AWS, what savings you have on emissions. Who cares about that? Who have you seen or know about is really interested in seeing this data?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's still an evolving space. And so a lot of companies that we work with are still, working on figuring out what's their sort of org structure with respect to carbon footprint. How do they set goals? How do they track progress? How do they report out? But I think we're also seeing a really broad base of interest. And so a lot of companies that we work with have dedicated, sustainability departments or ESG, and they're, really well-versed on different carbon footprint methodologies and reporting requirements and regulatory requirements and things like that. So that's one group of customers that we see. But we also see, cloud COEs and FinOps groups taking the lead on this and trying to help, just like they do with cost, trying to help individual application or product teams reduce their emissions and optimize their carbon footprint. And then we also see just sort of from the ground up, individual developers, hobbyists, the folks who are kind of on the ground or fingers on keyboard coding also want to know what their carbon footprint is. And so I think there's just a lot of interest from all different levels in the organizations that we work with.
Yeah, definitely. That just reminded me. I'm wearing it under this hoodie, but it's freezing, so I couldn't show it today. But I went to the FinOps meetup on Monday. That was the UK roadshow, and it was great to see people I haven't seen in ages from the industry. And there was a short talk by Mark Butcher who talked about this concept where lots of people care about it, and it's not just the kind of the high levels, C-level, C-suite who are getting kind of pressure to do this. Maybe they're getting reviewed on it now. It's becoming more, but also I didn't really think about it, but you've just said like the people from the bottom up, like everyday people who care about kind of the planet are starting to care. So the pressure's coming from like the top and the bottom to do this. So a lot of people do. Daily Push has put on kind of every corporation who's trying to advertise a zero carbon emission probably does care about this. But he's also posted a great question. While creating these reports, has anything surprised you, or did you know about anything surprising AWS that you found when you started reporting on this?
That's a good question. I don't know that there's any one finding that was super surprising. One of the things that wasn't necessarily surprising, but was really, driven home through the process of releasing this product was, as I mentioned, just how much customers care about it and how quickly they have provided feedback of more things that would be helpful, which is why I sort of said at the beginning, like we view this as a first step and that there's more to come here. But our customers have already started asking for, for more detail and different ways of getting the report and all kinds of different things. And like I said, this is how we build products at AWS, is listening to our customers. And so I think we've got a really rich source of feedback and an exciting roadmap ahead of us.
Definitely. That was going to be one of mine. Maybe we'll touch on that if we have time, some things that you hope to see in the future for this. But we are the company that, I mean, our leadership principle is customer obsession. We care about what you think. If you have an account team or if you have an account at AWS and you want to share your feedback, kind of raise PFRs with us, we take that into, people think it's not true. We take it into consideration and it pushes things up the roadmap. I've seen it happen. So yeah, please feel free to feedback and say what you like, what you don't like, and AWS will keep developing on it because that's what we want to do. So shall we dive into how to get started with this? Should we do is there anything you want to say beforehand or before we go into the demo?
No, let's jump into the demo.
Cool. All right, let's get your screen ready. Okay, go for it.
All right. So I'll start with how to get to the carbon footprint tool. It's part of the overall AWS management console. To get to the carbon footprint tool, you'll go up here, click your billing dashboard, and then once you're there, click in the left nav the cost and usage reports link. And if you scroll down, you will see your customer carbon footprint tool. There's no opt-in required and no setup required. The only thing you need to do to be able to access this is to add a new identity and access management permission, which is sustainability get carbon footprint summary. And then you will be able to access the tool. So you can, as I mentioned before, data starts from January 2020. As we release the tool in March, there's already a period of data that's backfilled for you, so you can already start seeing historical trends, and then all the data is at monthly granularity, and there is a time lag of about 90 days between the close of a month and when the emissions data is available. And this is just because we need to gather all the data from sources not only inside the company, but also external to the company, things like, our electricity bills in regions all over the world. And so there is a little bit of a time lag there. Right now, we have data through December 2021.
Cool.
So diving into the data that we can get here, we are looking at a test account. So you're going to see some of the numbers are very large. Hopefully your emissions will be much lower than this, unless you're quite a large enterprise using a lot of AWS. And we've got the same numbers every month. So you probably will not see that, but we're looking at some test data here. But the first thing that I want to call out is sort of the headline number here in green, which is your estimated AWS emissions. And this is for the time period that you've selected. This is the estimated amount of emissions that you've incurred as a result of your usage of AWS products and services.
Right. Just to ask, the unit, is that the metric ton thing?
Yes, great question. So everything in this tool is reported as a metric ton of CO2 equivalent. So that may not be immediately intuitive. Essentially, when you're using electricity and running a data center, there are multiple different types of greenhouse gases that are emitted. So carbon dioxide, but also things like methane. And so what the little E here stands for is equivalent, which means that we normalize those different types of gas emissions into what is the equivalent amount of CO2 in terms of impact on the planet. And so that's sort of the unit that everything is reported in. This is all in line with the greenhouse gas protocol, which is the most widely used protocol around emissions reporting in the world, and has also been assured by some of our third-party auditors.
Cool. Wasn't it, to segue, that we talked about the other day, it being the equivalent of driving your car once every 2 weeks was a metric ton? Was that something like that?
Yeah, so directionally, 1 metric ton is equivalent to driving your car once or twice a week for a year. And that's just sort of like a reference point so you can kind of wrap your head around
yeah.
these emissions, because it's hard to necessarily have intuition around like what's a little or what's a lot.
Yeah, this is new for I don't think about things in metric tons of carbon, so it's new for me too. But yeah, continue going through. What else have we got on here?
Yeah. So next you can see your emissions saved on AWS. So like I said, this is based on the 451 research report that looked at the relative carbon intensity of different data centers versus running on AWS. So you can see the emissions saved on AWS, and you can see that broken down by how much is from AWS's renewable energy purchases or projects. So, all of the different renewable energy projects that we directly commission or operate, as well as any market purchases. And then the amount saved by using AWS computing services. And that's really around the efficiencies that I mentioned earlier. So the higher server utilization, the operational efficiencies that we drive in our data centers.
Cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just say there's a question. I'll just throw it up. So to kind of, I assume, going into the next section as well. So as AWS switches into solar, say for Ohio, would I see my carbon go down versus if I was in Virginia and it was gas or nuclear?
Yeah, absolutely. So the emissions that you see in the tool here is based on the specific regions that you're operating in, and each region does have different levels of carbon intensity, and different regions. That's based on a couple of things. So different regions have different levels of availability of renewable energy. And so in some places it's easier to source than others. In some places it's quite limited. And then as well, the power grids in different regions have different carbon intensities. Right. So in some cases, it may be already the power grids that are there may already be significantly based on renewables, whereas in other places it may be coal or other non-renewable energy sources.
Cool, thanks. Okay, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so on that point, we do provide a breakout of your emissions by geography here. So you can see kind of EMEA and Americas and APAC, and then a high-level breakdown by service. So you can see your EC2, S3, and other emissions here. And then importantly, you can see your emissions over time. And so, like I said, this test account that we're looking at has the same data every month. So it's a very boring flat line here. But I think this is where you'll see, okay, emissions may be ramped up as our website got more traffic in peak season, and ramped down as we started realizing some of the benefits of the sustainability efforts or optimizations in our architecture that we've made over time to reduce our emissions. So this gives you a great way to view your progress over time.
Yeah, so if you guys are shutting things off at night using kind of instant scheduler, or if you're getting rid of some of those idle resources like EBS volumes, I'm assuming that'll all kind of make an impact on this dashboard.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the great things about architecting for sustainability is, in most cases, the things that are going to reduce your emissions are also going to save you money. And so there's a nice double whammy there.
Yeah, that's what we love to hear, bringing it all back to cost. So yeah, so have a look. And also, just if you are, like, call to action, we said kind of go and check this out. If you know you're about to start looking at some optimization, kind of take a look at this dashboard now and see where you are, and then say, okay, if we get rid of all these things that we don't need, these idle resources, does it make an impact? How does it look? And also, we've had someone just pop in the comments as well that this tool will help raise awareness for the new well-architected pillar, which has become available, which is sustainability, which is what we want. So yeah, this is all, obviously it's all coming out at the same time. What a surprise!
Yeah, that's great. So that's actually a good segue into the last visualization that we show here, which is our path to 100% renewable energy. And so this shows, based on your current workloads, so the resources that you're using today, how will the emissions associated with those workloads go down as AWS makes progress towards powering our operations with 100% renewable energy? And that's something that we're on track to complete by 2025. And so again, here we're looking at a nice boring flat line, but hopefully what you'll see in your account is that your emissions are reducing over time as more and more of those resources are ultimately powered by renewable energy. And the way that that ties in with the well-architected framework is similarly to the well-architected framework for security. You've got sustainability of the cloud and sustainability in the cloud. So sustainability of the cloud is AWS's responsibility. That ties back to what I've mentioned around efficiency and renewable energy projects and this path to 100% renewable energy. And then there's sustainability in the cloud, which is how can you, as Steph mentioned, shut off resources, use instance scheduler, re-architect to not only reduce costs, but also reduce emissions. How do you choose the least carbon intensive regions for your workloads? And potentially re-architect towards things like serverless architecture, which is going to have a lower cost and lower resource utilization.
Right. Awesome. Okay. Thank you for walking us through that. That's super helpful. And I'm probably going to clip that bit down and be able to rewatch it to share with my customers. So a couple of other bits I wanted to make sure we shout out. Jeff Barr wrote a nice blog post about this. So have a read of that. We will hopefully be getting him to come on the show. He was meant to come on a while ago, but couldn't make it. So we're going to get him back on eventually. Exciting times. But yeah, we've got like 2 minutes left. Is there anything else you really wanted to plug or share to get customers excited about this or suggest that they take a look at?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I really liked working on this tool about is it's really only one part of AWS's and Amazon's much broader sustainability efforts. And it's really a very multi-pronged, multifaceted strategy. We founded the Climate Pledge a few years ago, which just recently passed 300 signatories, which we're very excited about. Wow. And, this ties in with things like on the consumer side of the business, placing an order for 100,000 electric delivery vans from Rivian, which was the largest order of electric delivery vehicles ever. It wow. involves, in our retail business, the Climate Pledge Friendly designation, so you can help, so you can find the products that are most sustainable as you're shopping on Amazon. When we take a big step back, the carbon footprint tool is an important step for our customers, but it's really one piece of a much broader commitment to sustainability across Amazon.
Nice. And there's one quick question. Is there a way to see alternate areas that I could use to move to more carbon-less areas? I'm not sure if that's in the tool at the moment, but something to maybe think about for the future.
Exactly. It's not in the tool today, but that's one of the things that we're hearing from customers. What we've started with is understanding your current carbon footprint and being able to have a high-level view of how it's going to change over time. And that, I think, establishes a foundation. But I think what's coming in the future is more tools to help you be proactive about managing your carbon footprint. So whether it's helping you choose the right region for each of your workloads or having recommendations, similarly to how we have cost optimization recommendation tools, I think there's a lot more to come here.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm excited to see it. So yeah, so thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me today, Liam.
Thanks for having me, Steph.
This has been interesting. I need to go. I'm going to go look at my dashboard and see if there is anything. So next week we'll be looking at cost strategies. We're going to be looking more about like the education around it. So tune in then. And if you've enjoyed listening to me talk a little bit, then I'm at the London Summit and agendas are up now. So go register. Come if you watch the show. Come say hi. But all of this will be on YouTube. And that's it. Have a good day, everyone. We will see you next week.